Hey, welcome back. So glad you're here. Thanks for listening. If you are a listener and you have had success after listening to this podcast, raising major gifts, I want to hear from you. So DM me on LinkedIn, tell me your story. I have had people casually just tell me that they raised $1.2 million gift from listening to my podcast. Or, hey, I raised a 75K, or I got a 15K gift just from listening to the podcast. And of course, I, like you, ask follow-up questions. I'm like, hey, so do you work with a coach? Did you work with a consultant? And you also listen to my podcast? Maybe you're getting training somewhere. They're like, nope, sure don't. Well, there you go. So I have a feeling that there's more of you out there. So if you've been listening to this podcast and you've raised major gifts, I want to hear from you. DM me and let me know. I am having a podcast listener come on the show later this season, and I'm going to interview her because she closed a 7-figure gift from this podcast. And she's going to tell you her story and how she did that. Isn't that pretty cool? This isn't even a client. This isn't even someone who works with me. This is just someone who listens to my entire podcast. So, glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining me. This episode, we're going to talk about the data on galas versus major gifts. I have been getting this question a lot lately, and so I'm just going to jump into the data on what is the highest ROI typically. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule, but this is the rule. Okay? I have a lot of experience with galas. I have done your traditional gala with 1,000 people in the room, and it is a sit-down dinner. And, a big name like Kerry Washington or Michelle Obama, heard of her? And I've done galas with celebrity keynote speakers and famous people as your co-chairs. And I've done a lot of fundraising in Los Angeles. And so, of course, there's a lot of people who are philanthropic who also happen to be famous. And of course, every board and every executive director would love a famous person to be involved with their gala. Pretty typical. Nothing innovative there, is there? Right? So I've done it, and I've actually seen it done well, and I've seen it also done not so well. And usually galas are not profitable. So if you have a profitable gala, then you can just stop listening now because this doesn't apply to you. No need to write me and tell me how I'm wrong because this ain't about you. This is for the people who are weighing, do we keep doing our gala? Why or why not? Our board wants to keep doing it. The staff maybe doesn't want to keep doing it, but they need data in order to explain how a major gifts focus can actually replace your gala. It is possible. I see my clients do it all the time. They get rid of their gala and then they focus on major gifts. They do it in less time. So let's talk about your time. First of all, let's say you have a development director that's getting paid $45 an hour. If they're spending 20 hours a month for 9 months, it's usually how long it takes to plan a gala is 9 months. If it takes less than that, I hate to tell you, but your gala probably isn't that great. It's probably not that great, but maybe you already know that and you don't need me to tell you. Okay, 9 months to plan. And I, of course, I'm talking about a more traditional gala. So even if you do fun and interesting stuff, no, our auction is actually interesting, or we have really great catering, or we have live music and people dance. Good for you. That's awesome, right? I'm talking about a sit-down dinner where it's explicit that it's a fundraiser and you're trying to raise money. Maybe you have a paddle raise. Maybe you do a digital auction. Maybe you do a live auction. Maybe you do a silent auction. Maybe you have people who buy tables at 10K. Maybe you have sponsorship levels. If this is sounding like your gala, then I'm talking to you. And if it's not quite profitable, then let's talk about it. So development director time, $45 an hour, 20 hours a month for 9 months is $8,100 just in one person's time. And of course, you have to weigh the opportunity cost. So that's 20 hours a month that they are not spending building relationships, but instead event planning. So if you want to create more time to build relationships, then you can free up 20 hours a month. And let's be honest, I'm being conservative with that time estimate, which, by the way, if you want a write-up on this, a PDF, I'm also going to have a blog post on it, but just DM me the word gala and I can send you the info, okay? So let's move on to the hard cost. So the hard cost of a gala is anywhere from $50K to $250K. It just depends on the production. It depends on your budget, obviously. Here's the deal. You have to raise $200,000 plus to break even. And you're not really even breaking even because you've sunk 20 hours a month into something that didn't raise money. It did not net money. It was not profitable. That is time you cannot get back. It's very rare to find galas that are profitable. The next piece of the gala that's exhausting is the energy that it takes. It is exhausting for your team to put it together. When you do a large scale event like that, there are so many factors. There's so many things that go wrong. No matter how planned ahead you are, stuff always happens. There's so many people involved that there's so many things that will fall through. It's exhausting. So there are more sustainable strategies that don't break even. Even if you only raise $100,000 or $200,000, I understand that's not anything to sneeze at. That's a lot of money. But here's the deal. You cannot convince me that you can't raise that in 1 or 2 conversations that would take 2 hours total. And there is no hard cost. So while you might be netting money for your gala, there are donors within your database right now who are not giving their best gifts, and they would if you ask them. And it doesn't matter what size your organization is, it's always the case, 100% of the time, bank on it. So while you are not accurately evaluating and missing and overlooking the opportunities that are inside of your database that could raise the same amount of money that your gala nets or more with a fraction of the time. We're talking about 20 hours a month versus 2 hours total. It's hard to even compare that. And again, while you're event planning, you're not relationship building. Those are hours you're not meeting with donors. This is how money gets raised. Talking with more people, inviting them to join you in your mission. If you are event planning, love ya, but you're not fundraising. They're not the same thing. This should not be controversial at all. Then the other bone I have to pick with the gala is that it's restricted dollars. So when you are raising sponsorship money, you're raising money that, let's say, a company or someone on the board purchases a table for $10,000. Well, when they attend and their guests attend, it's not pure donation, right? It's going to pay for the cost of the event, and they receive a service or a good, a benefit as a result of that sponsorship. There is likely some sort of marketing perk, right? And they also are getting dinner, an open bar if you have one, some kind of drink ticket situation, whatever it is. It's not a 100% donation to your mission. That's what I want for you. Money that is completely unrestricted, that is not tied to any campaign or to any specific program, but that you can decide where it needs to go and you can put it to work. It's flexible and there's no tying your hand behind your back to do your job. Gala money is restricted to go to sponsor the gala. So that's a pain in the ass because you might actually be behind in raising your general operating support while you might be flush with cash for this gala sponsorship. I don't want you to be in that position. I have so many people who reach out to me and they have restricted money that they've raised for a gala, for a capital campaign, and they have all of this money, $800,000, $1 million towards a restricted program, a restricted thing that they need to do with it that's earmarked for that. And yet they need to make payroll and they need to keep the lights on. Don't let it be you, my friend. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you have a small or medium-sized team, you likely should not be doing a gala. It's inefficient. It's not profitable. It's not building relationships. Once you get gala donors, it doesn't mean they're a donor of your organization. Let me say that again. When you get gala donors, it doesn't mean they're a donor of your organization. Let me give you a very specific case study and see if this resonates with you. I have a client, does a gala, has a really active board. Hallelujah, right? The board gets their rich neighbor to come to the gala. Let's say that their rich neighbor's name is Dan. Dan comes to the gala. Dan is very rich. He sits at the table with the board member. Dan says really complimentary things about the nonprofit. The night of the event, he meets you, the VP of development, the development director, the executive director, whatever your title is. He meets you. Dan says, oh, this is a lovely event. Love your mission. Love what you're doing. Great work. Congratulations. Dan donates $1,000 that night. Dan leaves the gala, and after 9 months of following up with Dan, you don't hear anything. You continue to think that Dan is somebody you should waste your time on because he's so rich and because he's a best friend neighbor of one of your board members. And he came to the gala after all, so that should mean something. Oftentimes it doesn't. People do things like that type of fundraising, right? Where they come to an event because somebody who's important in their life invited them. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they've converted to investing in your mission. It's difficult to convert gala donors to become general operating support, regular major donors who give year after year, who are loyal, who are committed. I don't see it happen a lot. This is why. Because we teach people how to relate to us. And when you host a gala and you make giving about an event, about a sponsorship of an event, about giving as just an emotional moment as a result of hearing a beautiful speech or seeing a really moving video, but there's not a basis for relationship, then we're training the donor to just give in those environments and when that circumstance happens. Then they're prompted to give. This is true for end of year fundraising, and this is true. We train our community and our donors to give in the ways in which they give. So if you don't want restricted money, then stop asking for it. If you want people to support your mission, then ask them to support your mission, right? If you don't want more of what you've got, then stop doing what you've got. I mean, I know that sounds really obvious. It's super basic, but it needs to be said. If it's not working for you, then you need to do something different, right? Great. There's all these challenges. You don't have people's contact information. You don't know who to reach out to. You have this really long, huge list and you feel like they're all falling through the cracks. Okay, so what are you going to do about it? All of those things are what they are. The world is how it is. There is injustice. There are challenges. What are you going to do about it? Right? So let's talk about major gifts focus. When you have the right strategy, when you have the right approach, when you have the magnetic messaging, the right language, let me put it to you this way. When you know what to say, when you know when to say it, you will start raising 5-figure gifts, 6-figure gifts, multi-year commitments. This is what my clients do. It's likely that you are not explicit enough when you make an ask. When it gets challenging, when you don't hear back, you give up or you back down. You don't ask follow-up questions, so you never really find out why they said what they said or what they meant when they said what they said. So these challenges, when you get the skills and the training, you can raise 5- and 6-figure gifts in just 1 hour or 2 hours. Let me give you an example. So my client, let's call her S. She comes into Courage Lab. In the first 14 days, she raises a $15K gift in one conversation from one of her board members because she figured out to see the opportunities that she was overlooking before. Previously, she was saying, well, my board is giving the best gifts they can give. So they're on the board. Like they know we need to raise more money. If they could give more, they'd already be doing it. But she was frustrated in how little they were actually helping, right? Sound familiar? And so she learned to read what was going on with her board better. She learned how to stop overlooking and misreading the signs. We can often get really distracted by people's wealth and overlook how beloved our organization is in their heart. And when you learn how to read what's going on inside of the person that you're sitting across from, when you increase your emotional intelligence, you can actually better understand if you are a donor's favorite organization or if you're just one of the top 5. You can better understand where you stand with the donor. This is really powerful because it allows you to make bigger asks to the people who are ready to give and to step up right now. They don't need more relationship building. It's not going to take another 18 months. These are lies that are just holding you back. So there are folks that are sitting within your database right now that you're likely not leading them to give their best gift. When you understand timing and you know what to say and how to say it, boldly, confidently, still with kindness and respect, then you can raise 5-figure gifts in one conversation, in one email. Now, if you could raise $200,000 in just 2 weeks, why on earth would you do a gala? I'll tell you why. People who prioritize galas usually do not want to talk to their rich friends about money. It is a way to not have to fundraise. It's a way to not have to do major gifts. It's a way to not have to talk to people straight up and ask them to donate. Usually, when a gala is one of the top priorities for someone's fundraising strategy, it's usually because the leadership, they are hesitant to talk to people about giving straight up. I can know that about you because I've been around doing this for 17 years. I personally have raised over $25 million from individuals and family foundations, and I have coached dozens of nonprofit leaders. And I know that if the gala is one of the biggest pieces for you in your fundraising strategy, then likely your leadership doesn't want to do major gifts. So you actually have a courage problem. You have a humility problem. You picked the wrong strategy, and the real issue is not, is this more effective? What's the highest ROI? The real issue is actually you are not willing to humble yourself to be uncomfortable and talk to people, inviting them to come and donate, inviting them to join the mission. That is the most efficient use of time. There is no more efficient way to raise larger gifts. It is the fastest way to raise the biggest gifts. It is not a gala. And actually, it's very difficult to build relationships with hundreds of people at your gala. How can you possibly do it? It's overwhelming. It's part of why it's exhausting. I choose Major Gifts Focus 100% of the time, which is why I'm Team No Gala. If a gala is working for you, and if it is profitable, and if you can convert those people into donors for your nonprofit and build relationships with those people, then you are in the minority. That is not the rule, that's the exception. Good for you. That's awesome. Most people do not have the, as we say, the bandwidth. We don't have the capacity to do a big gala. So what you actually need to do is build your communication skills. You need to get a better strategy. You need to start asking for more. You need to learn how to attract new donors and increase current giving without having to spend 20 hours a month to put on this massive event that, let's be honest, doesn't really raise that much money after it's all said and done, after you take out the cost, the hard cost of the event. And if you tell me that you do it really cheap, right, then why? If it's not really great, if it's not a really great experience, why keep doing it? Some of you, your standards are so low. What you expect your donors to be excited about, it's what are you doing, right? What are we doing? So think about this. If you say that you value relationship building, then why would you focus on event planning? If you say that you want to focus on the highest ROI opportunities, then why will you continue to prioritize a gala over focusing on major gifts? If you want to activate your board to not just sell tickets to an event, but actually open up their network and build relationships on your behalf, then focus on major gifts. If you want to keep selling tickets, if you want to keep collecting corporate logos, and putting them on slides and handouts and PDF, your programs. If you want to keep doing silent auctions, if you want to keep doing all that stuff, then keep doing it. Knock yourself out. If you actually want to have a higher ROI for the time that you spend working, then major gifts beats galas every time. It's not even close. And again, I feel like the people who are gala people, like they really just are pretty intense. Like I'll write about how I'm team no gala on LinkedIn and people are like, galas work! Galas work! And I'm like, oh my God. Like, obviously you're new here. Okay. So I'm not saying galas don't work. I'm not saying that. Once again, I've done them. Me personally. I've sold tickets. I've done art auctions. I've done dinners with keynote speakers. I've done it. Like whatever you've done, I've also done. I will say I've never done a golf tournament. So there's that. But yeah, and the gala that I was involved with and helped planning, it raised over $1 million. But it definitely cost well into the six figures. I mean, and then if you think about the staff cost of everyone who was involved in planning that and the time that it took, we don't do a true cost evaluation, debriefing, a post-mortem after an event to really evaluate both the staff time and the hard cost. When I say hard cost, I mean catering, venue, entertainment, whatever it was that you spent money on. And people talk to me about how they don't have money to be able to get training or for a consultant or to work with me. But I'm like, you're spending money on a gala that isn't, what is it netting you? Like, even if it raises a lot of money, what is the cost of doing that event? And are you actually getting those people who are guests, who are plus ones? Are you converting them to donors? Or are they just giving you $500 and ghosting you? You need to let them go because they're not your donors. They came because their neighbor, who's your board member, invited them. This is not their interest. It's not their passion. It's not their mission. They think what you do is great. They're a kind human being, but it's not for them. So you gotta let them go. This is what I see over and over again with so many gala guests and attendees versus a major gifts focus. If somebody takes a meeting with you, one-on-one or two-on-one, if let's say you go with a board member or someone else and they're making an introduction, if they're doing that, then the likelihood that they are going to give a gift is very high because they'll not give you their one-on-one time if they weren't interested in getting more involved. You need to understand that. And so if somebody comes to a gala, they might be doing it because it's going to be a great night, it's for a great cause, and our neighbor, Stephanie, invited us, so we gotta go. Stephanie's a great neighbor. She brings in our trash cans when we're out of town. She waters the plants. She looks after my cat. So I'm going to go because she invited us to the gala. I don't even know what this nonprofit is, but sure, I'll give $500. Here you go. So we have to let them go. We got to let them go, let them go, let them go. Let them go. No, I'm not going to sing. I'm not going to sing that song. I know what you're thinking. I'm not doing it. So that's the cost and ROI breakdown on major gifts. When you get the right approach, when you get the right strategy for you, you can raise larger gifts from individuals unrestricted in 1 to 2 hours a week. This is what I teach my clients to do inside my program, Courage Lab. If you're interested in the September cohort, DM me CL, the letters CL, let me know. And if you want the PDF on this entire cost and ROI breakdown of galas versus a major gifts focus, let me know. You can just DM me. I think I said my code word is gala. So do that. Happy to share that with you. That's a great resource you can share with your board. You can share with your boss. You can share with your team. Really think about this. I do this work because it's so common to have folks burn out. And it's not even just about what's most efficient. It's about what is not going to burn out your team. How many more galas do you have in the tank? Honestly. If you keep going like you're going, what's going to happen? And if you keep putting in all of this time and energy into event planning, a massive event, then when are you going to have time to do the stuff that you say you really want to do? How are you going to get different results if nothing changes? You've got to make changes. So if you want to work together, hit me up, DM me on LinkedIn. That's where I am every single day. And I'm here to support you. My program, Courage Lab, we have an October cohort starting. If that's of interest to you, let me know. It's best for organizations that are at 800K or more annual budget, usually between 800K and 3 million is the typical range. For executive directors, development directors, fundraisers who are going to be making major gift asks, and you want to raise 6 figures in 6 months in just 1 to 2 hours a week, you need a better strategy. This program is for you. If you know you need to make bolder, more confident and clear asks, then you need to get in here. If you need 100% board giving, then you need to get in my program. I train your board. So it's for up to 3 team members. And I also train your board in February. If you want to get in on this, DM me CL. I have 6 spots open. And next episode on the pod, I'm going to be beginning my 3-part mini-series on end of year fundraising roadmap. So I'm going to have a PDF and a guide to walk you through your end of year fundraising checklist, so that for the first 3 weeks of October, you can knock that out. You can have a clear roadmap on what you need to do to maximize end of year fundraising. I want this to be helpful and practical, and I want to help you get quick wins. So if that's you, make sure you subscribe if you're interested in that. Subscribe to the podcast so you can know exactly when this is coming out. And I can't wait till next week. Thanks so much.